The shuttle landed with a soft hum on the docking bay of the Galactic Coalition Academy. The doors opened, and cold, recycled air rushed inside. Lieutenant Park stepped out, carrying only a small bag over her shoulder. She was 32 years old, short and thin. Her black hair was tied back in a simple knot. Her face showed nothing, no excitement, no fear, no curiosity. Around her, the academy stretched in every direction. Glass and metal towers reached toward the stars. Thousands of beings from dozens of species walked through the corridors. Most of them were young. Most of them were not human. Followed the signs to the registration office. She walked slowly, keeping her eyes down. A group of cadets passed her, each one standing almost 3 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in thick scales that shone under the lights. They looked at her the way someone might look at a small insect, with mild disgust and no real interest. She did not look back at them. The registration officer was a species with 4 arms and a hard shell covering most of their body. He checked her transfer papers and made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Human," he said, "Frontier Division, no combat medals, no special training listed." He looked at her with 2 of his 4 eyes. "Why are you here?" "Orders," said simply. The officer shrugged all 4 shoulders and handed her a room key. "Building 7, floor 3, try not to get stepped on." Took the key and walked away without another word. Her room was small but clean. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 storage units. The other bed was already occupied by belongings, colorful fabrics and strange devices she did not recognize. Her roommate had not yet arrived. Placed her bag on the empty bed and sat down. For a long moment she simply stared at the wall. Then she began to unpack. She had very little, some clothes, a small photograph in a frame. The photograph showed a group of soldiers standing in front of a burning building. Their faces were tired but proud. Was in the center, younger and smiling. She placed the photograph face down in the drawer and closed it. The door opened and her roommate entered. She was younger than the registration officer, with bright orange markings on her shell. She stopped when she saw and tilted her head. "You are human," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, I am." The moved to her side of the room and began organizing her things. "I have never shared a room with a human before. I have heard your species is fragile." "We manage," said. Made a clicking sound, perhaps laughter, perhaps something else. "The mess hall opens in 1 hour. You should eat. The food is not good, but it keeps you alive." "Thank you." They did not speak again until dinner. The mess hall was enormous. Hundreds of cadets sat at long tables, eating and talking in dozens of languages. The noise was overwhelming. Collected a tray of food, paste, and something that might have been vegetables, and looked for an empty seat. She found one at a table near the wall. But before she could sit, a massive hand slammed down on the surface in front of her. The hand belonged to a with rust-colored scales and cold yellow eyes. He was larger than the others she had seen, and his uniform bore the marks of a cadet leader. Behind him stood 5 more, all watching with cruel amusement. "This table is not for humans," they said. His voice was deep and harsh. "Find somewhere else. Maybe the garbage disposal area. That seems more appropriate for your kind." The cadets behind him laughed. Looked at this hand, then at his face. Her expression did not change. She simply picked up her tray and walked to another table, a smaller one in the corner, far from everyone else. They watched her go. "My name is," he called after her. "Remember it. I am the one who decides who belongs here, and humans do not belong." Sat down and began to eat. She did not look at, she did not respond to his words. She simply ate her food in silence, alone. Later that night, asked her about it. "I saw what happened," they said. "Is dangerous. His family has great influence in the coalition. Many cadets fear him." "I noticed." "You did not fight back, you did not even speak." 4 eyes studied her with curiosity. "Are all humans so? Passive? I thought your species was known for aggression. Was lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Fighting is not always the answer, she said quietly. Then what is? Patience. Clicked her teeth. Patience will not stop. He enjoys causing pain. He will not leave you alone simply because you ignore him. Maybe. You are strange, human, turned off her light and settled into her bed. But I suppose that is not your fault. Good night. Good night. The room fell silent. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless darkness of space. Watched them for a long time, her face empty of emotion. But her hands, hidden under the blanket, were curled into tight fists. She had not come here to fight. She had come here to forget, to become someone new, someone ordinary, someone who was not defined by blood and death and the screams of the dying. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. In her dreams, she stood alone on a burning station, surrounded by bodies, waiting for enemies who never stopped coming. She woke before dawn, covered in sweat, and did not sleep again. 2 weeks passed at the academy, attended every class. She completed every assignment. She spoke only when teachers asked her questions, and her answers were always short and correct. She was not the best student, but she was not the worst. She was simply there, quiet, small, and forgettable. But did not forget her. It started with small things. Her equipment would disappear from her locker. Her name would be removed from team assignments. Food would spill on her uniform in the mess hall, always by accident, always when or his friends were nearby. Never complained. She replaced her equipment. She completed assignments alone. She cleaned her uniform and ate her meals in silence. This made angry. "You think you are better than us?" he demanded one morning, blocking her path in the corridor. His yellow eyes burned with hatred. "You think your silence makes you strong?" Looked up at him. He was twice her height and 5 times her weight. His claws could tear through metal. His scales could stop a knife. "I think nothing," she said calmly. "Please let me pass. I will be late for class." Leaned down until his face was close to hers. His breath smelled like smoke and meat. "One day, human, you will learn your place, and I will be the one to teach you." He stepped aside and walked past him without looking back. In tactical class, the instructor announced a sparring tournament. Every cadet would fight 3 matches. The winners would receive extra credits. The losers would receive nothing but bruises. Smiled when he heard this. He looked across the room at, "I request a match against the human," he said loudly. "I wish to see how her species handles real combat." The instructor, with one missing eye, nodded slowly. "Very well, Park versus, 3rd round." The other cadets whispered to each other. Some looked at with pity. Some looked at her with curiosity. A few looked at her with something like hunger. They wanted to see blood. Found after class. "You must refuse," she said urgently. "Has killed cadets in sparring before. The academy calls them accidents, but everyone knows the truth." "I cannot refuse," replied. "It would bring shame to my species." "Your species will have 1 less member if you fight him." Smiled a small, tired smile that did not reach her eyes. "Then I will try not to fight him." On the day of the tournament, won her first 2 matches quickly. Her opponents were A and a Young. Both were faster and stronger than her. Both lost within 30 seconds. The cadets who watched began to whisper again. The human had not fought with power or speed. She had fought with something else, something they could not name. She had moved like water, flowing around attacks, finding weaknesses, ending fights before they truly began. But when entered the ring for the 3rd match, everything changed. He did not wait for the signal to begin. He charged immediately, his massive claws swinging towards head. She stepped aside, but his second claw caught her shoulder and sent her spinning across the mat. "Too slow," human laughed, "much too slow." Stood up, blood ran down her arm. She did not look at the wound. She looked at with empty eyes. Yield, she said quietly. I yield. The crowd fell silent. A yield meant automatic loss. It meant shame. It meant admitting defeat before the fight was truly over. Smile disappeared. No, he growled. You do not yield, you fight, you bleed, you break. The rules allow me to yield, said. I choose to yield, the match is over. She walked out of the ring without waiting for the instructor's confirmation. Blood dripped from her shoulder onto the floor. She did not look back. That night, while treated her wound, they asked the question everyone was thinking. Why did you surrender? You are not weak, I saw your other matches, you could have fought him. Sat still while applied medicine to her torn flesh. Could I? Yes, your technique is strange, but it is effective. You might have won. And if I won, his voice was very quiet. His family has influence. The instructors favor his kind. If I had defeated him, truly defeated him, what do you think would have happened? Was silent for a moment. They would have found a way to punish you. Or remove me, nodded slowly. I did not come here to win tournaments. I came here to finish my training and leave, nothing more. That is a coward's answer. Perhaps, looked at her wounded shoulder. The cut was deep but clean, it would heal. But cowards survive, and right now survival is enough. Finished bandaging the wound and stepped back. You are hiding something, Park. I do not know what it is, but I know it is there. Behind your eyes, behind your silence. She paused. Whatever it is, I hope you never have to show it. Did not respond. She lay down on her bed and turned toward the wall. In the darkness, her hands began to shake. She pressed them against her chest and waited for the shaking to stop. It took a very long time. Outside, the stars watched in silence, cold and distant and uncaring. Somewhere in the academy was planning his next move, and somewhere in his mind, a door that she had closed years ago was beginning to open. She was afraid of what waited on the other side. The alarm came without warning. Was in the simulation room with 40 other cadets, practicing formation drills. The lights were dim, the air was thick with tension, and everyone was focused on the holographic enemies in front of them. Then the yellow training lights turned red. The calm voice of the station computer was replaced by a harsh screaming siren, and the holographic enemies disappeared, replaced by 3 words that made everyone freeze. Real threat DATSCTD. The instructor, a tall with silver fur, pressed his communicator. His face turned pale as he listened. Raiders, he said, his voice shaking. 3 warships from the hollow territories. They have already breached the outer hull. Panic spread through the room like fire. Cadets began shouting, pushing, running toward the doors. The instructor tried to restore order, but his commands were lost in the chaos. Did not panic, she did not shout, she did not run. She walked to the weapons locker in the corner of the room. It was sealed with a high-security lock that required instructor clearance. She pressed her hand against the panel and entered a code she should not have known. The locker opened. Inside were pulse rifles, energy blades, and tactical equipment. Took a rifle, checked its power level, and turned to face the room. Everyone stop. Her voice was not loud. It was not angry, but something in it made every cadet freeze. Even the instructor stopped and stared at her. The raiders will reach this section in approximately 8 minutes, continued. The main security forces are on the other side of the station. They will not arrive in time. If you want to survive, you will listen to me. A cadet stepped forward. Who are you to give orders? You are just a human, a transfer student. You know nothing about real combat. Looked at him with eyes that had suddenly become very cold. I know more about combat than anyone in this room. You can follow me in live, or you can argue and die. Choose now. No one argued. Within 3 minutes had organized the cadets into defensive groups. She sent the non-combatants to the inner laboratories, where the walls were thickest. She positioned fighters at key points in the corridor. She gave each group clear instructions. where to stand, when to shoot, how to retreat if necessary. Watched her with wide eyes. How do you know all this? Later said, go to Lab 7, set up a medical station. Wounded will come soon. Go now. Went. The first raiders appeared 2 minutes later. They were humanoid but wrong, their bodies twisted and modified with metal and machinery. Their eyes glowed red. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. There were at least 30 of them. Raised her rifle and fired. The first raider fell, then the second, then the third. Now, she commanded, and the cadets opened fire. The corridor became a storm of light and noise. Energy bolts flew in every direction. Raiders screamed as they fell. Cadets screamed as they were hit. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burning flesh. But through it all moved. She did not hide behind cover. She did not stay in one place. She flowed through the battle like a ghost, appearing where the raiders did not expect, striking before they could react. Her rifle fired again and again, each shot perfect, each shot deadly. When a raider got too close, she dropped the rifle and drew an energy blade from a fallen enemy. Her movements changed, faster now, sharper, more brutal. She cut through armor like paper. She broke bones with precise strikes. She killed without hesitation and without mercy. The cadets had stopped fighting. They simply watched. Was among them. He had pressed himself against a wall, his rust-colored scales pale with fear. His claws, which had torn his shoulder just days before, hung useless at his sides. He could not move. He could not speak. He could only watch as the small human woman destroyed everything in her path. In 11 minutes, the corridor was clear. 18 raiders lay dead. The rest had retreated, screaming warnings to their companions about the demon inn. Stood in the center of the destruction, breathing hard. Blood covered her uniform, none of it was hers. Her face was empty, her eyes distant. She looked like someone who had left her body and was watching from very far away. One of the cadets approached her carefully. How did you do that? Did not answer. She picked up her rifle, checked the power level, and began walking toward the next corridor. They will regroup and attack from the eastern section, she said, her voice flat and mechanical. We have 4 minutes. Follow me. The cadets followed. They had no other choice. By the time coalition reinforcements arrived, had cleared 6 corridors. She had saved over 200 lives. She had killed more raiders than the entire Academy security force combined. When the commanding officer found her, she was sitting alone in an empty room, staring at her bloody hands. She did not look up when he entered. She did not respond when he spoke. She was somewhere else entirely, back on a burning station, surrounded by enemies, waiting for help that might never come. The door in her mind had opened, and everything she had tried to forget had come flooding back. The Academy was quiet in the days after the attack. Repair crews worked on the damaged sections. Medical teams treated the wounded, and everyone, cadets, instructors, officers, talked about only one thing: the human. Stories spread through the station like wildfire. Some said she had killed 50 raiders. Some said 100. Some said she had torn them apart with her bare hands. Some said she had smiled while doing it. None of the stories were completely true, but none of them were completely false either. Admiral arrived 2 days after the attack. He was the highest-ranking human in the entire coalition fleet, an old man with hair and tired eyes. He walked through the academy halls with a group of officers behind him, ignoring the curious stares of the cadets. He found in her room. She was sitting on her bed, staring at nothing. She had not eaten. She had not slept. She had not spoken since the battle ended. The admiral sent everyone away and closed the door. Then he sat down across from her and waited. Finally spoke, "You should not have sent me here." "The assignment was supposed to be safe," Admiral said quietly. "No combat, no pressure, just observation and recovery." Nothing is safe. His voice was hollow. I should have known that. The admiral sighed heavily. The cadets are asking questions. The instructors are demanding answers. Someone already accessed your preliminary files. Your cover is broken. Then stop hiding it. He looked at her with surprise. Are you sure? I am tired of pretending. She finally met his eyes. Let them see who I am. Let them understand why I did not want to fight. That night's complete service record was released to Academy leadership. By morning, it had spread to every on the station. Was the first to read it. She sat in their shared room, scrolling through the document with all four hands. Her eyes grew wider with each line. Her breath came faster. By the end, she was shaking. The record told the story of a soldier named Park. Not a lieutenant, that was a demotion she had requested herself. Originally, she had been a captain, one of the youngest in human history. 13 years of service in the Frontier Division, 17 conflict zones, countless missions, but 3 entries stood out above all others. The first was the massacre of Station, a refugee shelter holding 3,000 civilians, attacked by enemy forces during a surprise invasion, all defenders killed in the first hour except one. Park held the shelter alone for 72 hours, fighting without rest, without backup, without hope. When rescue finally arrived, she was standing in a pile of enemy bodies, still firing her weapon. She had saved every civilian. She could not save herself. The second was the Ghost Offensive, a suicide mission to destroy the command structure of the Dread Fleet, an enemy armada that had terrorized Coalition space for years. The mission required someone to infiltrate their flagship alone, plant explosives, and escape before detonation. Survival probability, 2%. Volunteered. She succeeded. Military experts still did not understand how. The third was not a battle. It was a psychological evaluation conducted 6 months ago. The doctors wrote that Park showed signs of severe combat trauma, that she was unable to stop fighting, even when fighting was unnecessary, that she saw enemies in every shadow and death in every face. They recommended immediate removal from field operations, transfer to a quiet position, time to heal. The Academy had been her healing. Until the raiders came. Lowered her and looked at, who was sitting by the window, watching the stars. You are the ghost of, whispered. The stories they told us in training, the human who killed an army alone, that was you. Stories exaggerate, said without turning around. The record does not, stood up, her legs unsteady. You have been awarded the Star of Valor twice, the Silver Palm, the Iron Wreath, commendations from 12 different species. She paused. Your body count is classified. What does that mean? It means the number is too high for public release. Silence filled the room. Why? Finally asked. Why did you hide this? Why did you let hurt you? You could have destroyed him in a heartbeat. Finally turned to face her. Her eyes were empty and sad and very, very old. Because I have destroyed too many people already, she said quietly. I came here to forget, to become someone normal, someone who does not see death everywhere she looks. She paused. I wanted to learn how to live again, not how to kill. Did not know what to say. She stood frozen, looking at the small human woman who had saved her life. This person had faced horrors that could not imagine. She had survived things that should have killed her 100 times, and through it all, she had remained unbroken. Or had she? Looking at her hollow eyes and trembling hands, realized the truth. The ghost of was not unbreakable. She was shattered into a million pieces, held together by nothing but will and habit, and every battle broke her a little more. I am sorry, said softly, for what you have suffered, for what you continue to suffer. Smiled a ghost of a smile, brief and painful. Do not be sorry. Just help me remember that there is more to life than war. I will try. Outside, the stars continued their endless dance. And somewhere in the academy, hundreds of cadets were reading about the small human woman they had mocked and bullied and dismissed. Tomorrow, everything would be different. The mess hall fell silent when entered. Every eye turned toward her. Hundreds of cadets and a dozen other species stopped eating, stopped talking, stopped breathing. They simply stared at the small human woman in the uniform, collected her food tray and looked for a seat. The tables that had always been full now had empty spaces. Cadets moved aside as she passed. Some nodded respectfully. Some could not meet her eyes. Some looked at her with something close to fear. She sat alone at a table near the wall, the same table where had first confronted her, but was nowhere to be seen. She ate her meal in silence. No one approached her. No one spoke to her. The normal noise of the mess hall slowly returned, but it was quieter now, more careful, as if everyone was afraid of disturbing something dangerous. This was what she had wanted, to be left alone, to disappear into the background. But it did not feel like victory. It felt like loneliness. In the following days, the change became more obvious. Instructors treated her with careful respect. They did not ask her questions in class. They did not assign her to team exercises. They simply let her exist on the edges, watching, observing, separate. The cadets were worse. They watched her like prey watching a predator. Conversations stopped when she approached. Corridors emptied when she walked through. Even her only friend seemed uncertain around her now, caught between loyalty and instinct. One evening, found waiting outside her room. He looked different. His scales had lost their shine. His eyes had lost their cruelty. He stood with his shoulders hunched, his head down, like a creature that had been beaten many times. "I came to apologize," he said quietly. His voice was rough and broken. "For everything, the insults, the attacks, the tournament." He paused. "I did not know who you were." Looked at him for a long moment. Would it have mattered? What? If you had known who I was, would you have treated me differently? Or would you simply have been afraid instead of cruel? Did not answer, he could not. "Fear is not respect," continued, "and silence is not peace. You did not apologize because you understand what you did wrong. You apologized because you are afraid of what I might do." She stepped past him toward her door. "I do not want your fear. I do not want your apology. I just want to be left alone." She entered her room and closed the door behind her. Inside was waiting. "I heard," the said. He sounded sincere. He sounded afraid, sat on her bed and stared at the ceiling. "There is a difference." "Is there?" Moved to sit beside her. Fear and respect often look the same. Perhaps the beginning matters less than the ending. Before could respond, her communicator buzzed. She checked the message and her face became very still. "What is it?" asked. "New orders." His voice was flat. "A frontier colony has gone dark. Communications lost. Coalition command needs investigators." "Investigators? That sounds like a combat mission." "It is." His four eyes widened. "But you requested transfer from combat duty. Your psychological evaluation has been." Stood up and began packing her bag. "They need people with experience. My name was first on the list." "That is not fair." "War is not fair." Folded her clothes with mechanical precision. "It takes what it wants and gives nothing back. I learned that a long time ago." She packed everything she owned in less than 5 minutes. Her life fit into a single small bag. She picked up the photograph from her drawer, the one with the smiling soldiers in front of the burning building, and looked at it for a long moment before placing it carefully on top. At the shuttle bay the next morning, expected to board alone. She expected empty corridors and silent farewells. She expected to disappear the same way she had arrived, quietly, without notice. She was wrong. 40 cadets stood waiting at the shuttle doors. Was at the front, her 4 arms crossed, her face determined. Behind her stood the young from her tactical class, the who had treated her wounds, and dozens of others she barely recognized. Even was there, standing at the back, his scales still pale but his posture straight. "What is this?" asked. "We volunteered," said. "You are going into danger. You should not go alone." This mission could be fatal. The colony went silent. That usually means everyone is dead. "We read your record," a young cadet replied. "Missions with you have better survival rates than missions without." Almost laughed. "That is not how statistics work." "Maybe not." The cadet shrugged his massive shoulders. "But we are willing to test it." Looked at the faces around her. She saw fear that had not changed, but she also saw something else: determination, loyalty, perhaps even trust. These were not soldiers. They were students, children playing at war. They had no idea what waited for them in the darkness of space. But they had chosen to follow her anyway. "You understand I cannot protect everyone," said quietly. "People will die, maybe all of us." "We understand," replied. "But you taught us something during the attack. You taught us that survival is not about being the strongest or the fastest. It is about working together, trusting each other." She reached out and took his hand in one of her four. "Let us work together. Let us trust each other. Let us face whatever comes as one." Looked at their joined hands. His grip was warm and strong. It felt like something she had forgotten existed. "Hoping." "Very well," she said finally. "Board the shuttle. We leave in 10 minutes." The cadets cheered, a sound that echoed through the docking bay and reached every corner of the academy. Officers stopped to watch. Instructors emerged from classrooms. For a moment, the entire station held its breath. Then Park, the ghost of, walked onto the shuttle, followed by 40 cadets who no longer saw her as a monster. They saw her as their commander. And somewhere in the depths of space, a new war waited for them all. The stars burned cold and distant. The darkness stretched endless and hungry. But for the first time in years, Park did not face it alone. And somehow that made all the difference.